Welcome back to the Mike Huckabee Show. Joining me now, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, who's very involved in the Gang of Eight, the immigration bill that is expected to go before the Senate, and also a key vote in the gun control bill that Joe Manchin and Pat Toomey have put together, and it's really teetering on the brink of a few votes. Senator, it's great to have you here, but I want to begin. Just tell me any update on what's happening with the threats to Senate office buildings, and have you been evacuated?
We haven't been evacuated. Things are pretty tense right now. They put a hold on all mail coming from the processing facility. You know, we had this problem about a decade ago, and you know, I don't know what happened in Boston. I don't know if it's a Timothy McVeigh wannabe or some kind of, person associated with Al-Qaeda like the Times Square bomber. I don't know if these people are associated with Boston or they're just, lone wolves. We really don't know. But, I've got a lot of young people work up here. I'm worried about that. I've been around a while. I'm not so much worried about me, but, a lot of young people, interns, work on our staff, so I'm definitely concerned.
It seems like this stuff just comes in torrents, and this is a good example. I remember 10 years ago, or I guess 12 years ago, after September 11th, we had the anthrax scare, totally unrelated to the 9/11 attacks.
Right.
But it was still very much a part of giving America this sense of just absolute fear and horror about doing anything and going anywhere. And I hope that the perpetrators of both of these acts of horror can be found and dealt with promptly and forcefully.
Yeah, Mike, we live in a world where radical Islam, I think, is a threat to our way of life. If this Boston event is not associated with Al-Qaeda, please don't mistake that to mean that they can't hit us and they're not trying. Radical Islam, I will say this 1,000 times, is a threat to our way of life as much as the Nazis and the Japanese in World War II. And the only reason they've killed 3,000 Americans and not 3 million is they can't get the weapons. And that's why you've got to stop the Iranians from developing a nuclear weapon, because they'll share that technology with terrorists. I'm worried about the North Korean regime selling the technology to terrorist groups. And President Obama, I try to stand behind my president, but his policies when it comes to terrorism, of reading terrorists their rights, not using Guantanamo Bay. We've only captured one person in the last 3 years to hold them, capture people. We're killing all these guys. I want to capture some of them. And the last thing we need to do is put them in federal court in New York City. Osama bin Laden's son-in-law should be at Guantanamo Bay held as an enemy combatant, questioned without a lawyer. So this law enforcement model Obama is pursuing is going to bite us.
Let's talk immigration, because it's an issue you've been dealing with for years, not just recently with the Gang of Eight, but back 5 years ago when the other bill was first brought up.
Right.
How optimistic are you that there's going to be something resolved this time, and why is it different than previous attempts to reform immigration processes?
Well, I'm cautiously optimistic. Let's just talk about the politics, and the one thing I like about you is you just tell people what you really think. From a Republican point of view, from 2006 to now, our standing with Hispanics has gone down, and I think a lot of it has to do with the debate around immigration, some of the rhetoric, this idea of self-deportation is not a practical solution to 11 million. President Obama promised comprehensive immigration reform in 2009, never lifted a finger. He spent all of his time on Obamacare. So I think both parties need to fix this, and God knows our country needs it fixed. 40% of the people here legally, Mike, overstay their visas. Most of them come from the Mideast. The 19 of the 20 hijackers in 9/11 were visa overstays. So we've got a system in place in this bill to track when you come into the country and when you're supposed to leave. And if you overstay your visa, every law enforcement agency in the country knows about it. That did not happen in 2001. Our borders need to be secure, because when you got people coming across your border, it's one thing to put on a roof, it's another thing to be a part of a terrorist organization. So from a national security point of view, I think there's an imperative to get this right. Politically, both parties need to solve the problem. Economically, we need a guest worker program where you can access legal labor and control who gets a job. It's about lost sovereignty. America needs to regain her sovereignty. We need to control who comes into our country and who gets a job. And that's what this bill's about.
One of the things that people get upset about is if there's an amnesty. Senator Rubio last weekend on all the shows made it clear that this is not amnesty because people have to pay a fine. They have to make amends for having been here illegally.
Right.
But she says that means it's not amnesty. Amnesty is a forgiveness, and this means you pay a penalty.
Well,
but there has been go ahead.
Well, you're a lawyer. I mean, amnesty is forgiving somebody. This is a earned pathway to citizenship. It's a practical solution to a hard problem. There are a lot of illegal immigrants who have been here for decades. They've got children who are American citizens. They have grandchildren. Some of them may be in the Marine Corps. Most families are not going to watch their grandmother walk back to Mexico, so that's not a practical solution. Here's what I think is a practical solution. Come out of the shadows, go through a criminal background check, and if you've been a felon or multiple misdemeanors, off you go. But if you've done nothing but break the immigration laws, pay a fine, a $2,000 fine, get in the back of the line, learn the English language as a condition to stay here, and it takes 10 years under this bill, Mike, before you can even apply for a green card. During that 10-year period, you have to be self-supporting if you're able to work. You have to earn 100% of poverty or more. You're not eligible for Obamacare or any federal welfare program. You pay a fine, you get in the back of the line, and you pay a processing fee to go through the criminal background check, and you have to wait 10 years before you can even apply for a green card. I think that's a practical solution that people can support, Republicans and Democrats.
One area of concern is that the ICE Agents Union has expressed some dismay. Mm-hmm. They were not involved in getting to talk about the process and the bill. They feel like that they've been ordered by Janet Napolitano not only to release detainees, but to ignore some of the lawbreakers. Will this be addressed in the course of the consideration of this bill?
Absolutely, and we've spent $18 billion securing the border since 2007. We've done better. We've got 21,000 border security agents. We've doubled the size of the border patrol along the borders. There's 6 drones today. We're going to go up to 18 drones. We're going to spend $4.5 billion more securing the border. But the key is controlling a job. We're going to have a national E-Verify system so employers can verify you are who you say you are. If you can control who gets a job, that will do more to stop illegal immigration. In 1986, Ronald Reagan gave amnesty to 3 million. We never secured our borders, and we never controlled a job. We're not going to repeat the mistakes of 1986. Marco Rubio is right. This is not amnesty. This is a serious effort to control the border, a layered defense system of where we just don't control the border, we control who gets a job. And I'm very pleased and proud of this bill. If you can make it better, we'll try to make it better. But doing nothing is amnesty. Doing nothing is a national security nightmare.
Senator, we have less than a minute, but I want to get your thoughts. You announced yesterday you will vote against the Manchin-Toomey bill on background checks. I've heard you explain why, but tell us why.
Well, President Obama said he wanted to accomplish 3 things. He wanted to ban assault weapons, limit magazine sizes, and universal background checks. He's going to be 0 for 3 because he approached this through a political lens, not a substantive lens. Manchin-Toomey, well-intentioned, has an internet sales component that I think will be a nightmare for the average American to comply with when it comes to a private sale. 9,000 felons failed a background check that were on the run from the law. None of them were prosecuted. Let's fix the current system before we expand background checks.
Good point. Senator Lindsey Graham here on the Mike Huckabee Show. 855-840-4825. Have you talked to your senator how they will vote on the gun control bill? That's next.